I lost my husband in a plane crash the same night I held our newborn daughter. And 20 years later, she came home with a photo that shattered every truth I knew. My name is Evelyn Marsh. I'm 42 years old. 2 decades ago, I gave birth to our daughter, Amelia. And that same night, I got the call that my husband's plane had gone down. I remember everything about that night. Not because I want to, but because some moments burn themselves into you forever. Have you ever felt the world split into before and after in a single second? I was in the delivery room, gripping the hospital sheets, counting the minutes between contractions. My husband Daniel had flown to Chicago for a last-minute client meeting. He promised he'd be back before the baby arrived. "Just hold on a little longer," he texted. "I'll be there to hold your hand." I believed him. I kept my phone on my chest, waiting for his next message. Instead, the phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. Who calls at 11 p.m.? But something whispered, "Answer." The voice on the other end was too professional. "Mrs. Marsh, there's been an accident involving your husband's aircraft." The rest of the words blurred. "Mechanical failure, no survivors. We're so sorry." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just dropped the phone and felt my body go cold. And then the real pain started, the kind that doesn't ask permission. Nurses rushed in, doctors leaned over me. I was crying and pushing at the same time, my mind stuck on one horrible truth. Daniel was gone, and our daughter was coming into a world without him. When they placed Amelia in my arms, she was so small, so fragile. I looked into her face, and for a second, I saw his eyes. Some people die twice, once in body, once in the hope they leave behind. I didn't know whether to laugh or collapse, so I just held her tighter. The days that followed were a fog. Relatives came with casseroles and sympathy cards. Everyone said the same thing. "He's in a better place. Stay strong for the baby." But no one could answer the question that haunted me. How do you say goodbye when there's no body, no grave, no proof? The crash was so violent, they explained, that nothing remained. No wreckage large enough, no remains to bury. Just a file number and a death certificate. For months, a tiny flame of denial flickered in my chest. Maybe he survived. Maybe he was in a hospital somewhere with amnesia. But weeks turned into years, and that flame died. Because life doesn't pause for grief. Not when you have a child who needs formula, diapers, and someone to sing lullabies at 3 a.m. I raised Amelia alone. Those first years were brutal. Sleepless nights, a bank account that never seemed to grow, and a loneliness that sat on my chest like cement. I took any job I could find. Tutoring neighborhood kids, stitching dresses for extra cash, cleaning offices after everyone went home. I stopped buying things for myself. No new shoes, no coffee out, nothing. But Amelia never missed a meal, never wore hand-me-downs that didn't fit, never felt the weight of our poverty. That was my job. Once, when she was 7, she asked why I never wore pretty dresses like the other moms. I smiled and said, "I already have everything I need. Right here." And I meant it. Every time I saw her laugh, or struggle through a math problem, or fall asleep with her hand on my cheek, I found a reason to keep going. She had his stubborn chin, his way of tilting his head when confused. In that way, he was never fully gone. Years passed. Amelia grew into a smart, kind young woman. She got a scholarship to a university 2 hours away. I was so proud, and secretly terrified of an empty house. But she called every Sunday, and I told myself the hard part was over. Isn't it strange how we think pain has an expiration date? Then last Friday, the door opened, and I knew something was wrong before she said a word. She stood in the hallway, pale, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Mom," she whispered, "you need to sit down." I didn't sit. What happened? Are you okay? She took a breath. Today, I met someone on campus, a man. He walked right up to me and said, "You look just like your mother." My heart stopped. He knew your name. He knew my birthday. He knew everything. Who? I asked, though my blood already knew the answer. She turned her phone toward me. On the screen was a selfie. A man in his 50s, graying at the temples, but with those eyes, those unmistakable eyes. He says he's my father, Amelia said. He says he never died. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the table. That's impossible. I was at the funeral. I have the certificate. The airline confirmed. He wants to meet you, she interrupted softly. He said you wouldn't believe it unless you saw him yourself. He said he has answers. Answers. That word echoed in my skull. For 20 years, I had buried every question. Why? How? What if? Under the weight of survival. And now this stranger, this ghost, was asking for a conversation? No, I said firmly. There's a mistake. Someone is lying to you. Amelia didn't argue. She just looked at me with those same eyes. Then come see him. Prove him wrong. I wanted to say no. Every protective instinct screamed to shut the door and never look back. But something else, something smaller and more dangerous, whispered, "Don't you deserve to know?" Fine, I said finally. He comes here. 1 hour. And you stay in the room. She nodded and sent a text. That evening, the house felt different, heavier, like the walls were holding their breath. I sat in the armchair where I used to read to Amelia, my hands folded in my lap, trying to steady my heartbeat. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times. What I would say, how I would react. But imagination is a coward next to reality. A knock. 3 short raps. Amelia opened the door. And there he was. Older, yes. Thinner, with lines around his mouth I didn't recognize. But the shape of his jaw, the way he stood with his weight on one leg, that was Daniel. 20 years of grief, 20 years of being a widow, 20 years of single-parent exhaustion, and he walked in like he had just come back from a long trip. "Evelyn," he said. His voice was the same. That was the cruelest part. I didn't stand. I didn't offer a hug. I just looked at him. "Start talking." He sat across from me, keeping a careful distance. "After the crash, I survived, but I was badly hurt. Head trauma, broken bones. I was taken to a facility, and for a long time, I didn't know who I was. No memory, no identity, no way to find you." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "That's what he told me," she whispered. I held up a hand. "Keep going." He nodded. It took years for the memories to come back. Fragments, faces, feelings. And when I finally remembered you, I didn't know where to start. I had no documents, no money, no proof of who I was. I was trapped. Everything he said was plausible. Too plausible. It sounded like a movie script, not a confession. "How convenient," I said flatly. 20 years of amnesia, and you suddenly recovered just in time to find your daughter on social media? He flinched. "I saw her photo in a university post. I recognized her instantly. She has your smile." I leaned forward. "You expect me to believe that in 20 years, you never once tried to contact anyone? Not your mother? Not the airline? Not the police?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. Why do liars always pause before the hardest questions? That's when I noticed it. A small silver ring on his left hand. A wedding band. My stomach turned to ice. "Who gave you that ring?" He looked down, suddenly aware of his hands. Before he could answer, another knock came at the door. Loud, insistent. Amelia frowned. "Are you expecting someone?" "No," I said. I walked to the door, my legs unsteady, and opened it. A woman stood on the porch, mid-40s, sharp eyes, dressed in a navy coat. She looked past me, straight at Daniel, and her expression curdled. "You didn't tell them the truth, did you?" she said. Her voice was calm, but the kind of calm that comes before an explosion. The room went silent. Daniel's face drained of color. "Who are you?" Amelia asked. The woman stepped inside, never taking her eyes off Daniel. "My name is Claire, and I'm his wife." The word hit like a physical blow. I turned to Daniel. "You remarried?" He raised his hands. "Evelyn, I can explain." "He didn't lose his memory," Claire cut in, her voice cutting like a blade. "He never forgot you. He never forgot anyone." The plane crash was real, but he walked away from it, and instead of coming home, he saw an opportunity. My throat tightened. An opportunity for what? "To disappear," Claire said. "He had debts. He had another woman, me, and I was pregnant. He told me he was divorced. He told me his wife had left him years ago." She laughed bitterly. "I believed him for 15 years, until I found old photos in a shoebox. Photos of you, of your wedding." Amelia stepped back, shaking her head. No, this isn't real." Claire turned to her, softer now. "I'm so sorry. He came back to you not because he loves you, but because we couldn't have children. He wanted a child, and he remembered he had one." The room spun. I looked at Daniel, at his silence, his lowered head, his refusal to deny any of it. "Is that true?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He finally looked up, and instead of remorse, I saw calculation. "I made mistakes, but I'm here now. Can't we start over?" Something inside me broke, not with sadness, but with clarity. Some ghosts should stay buried, especially the ones who chose to become ghosts. I stood up slowly, walked over to him, and for a moment, he almost smiled, like he thought I would hug him. I slapped him, hard. The sound cracked through the living room like a gunshot. He didn't move, didn't even touch his reddening cheek. "You left me to raise our daughter alone," I said, each word measured and cold. "I worked 3 jobs. I slept 4 hours a night. I cried in the shower so she wouldn't hear. And you were out there, living a normal life, lying to another woman, pretending I never existed." I pointed at the door. "Get out. Now." He looked at Amelia, his last hope. "Sweetheart, I'm your father. We can still—" "Stop!" Amelia's voice was steel. "You don't get to call me that. You were a memory. A sad, beautiful memory. And now you're nothing. I would have preferred you dead. At least then I could have mourned you honestly." That was the blow that finally broke him. His shoulders slumped. He looked at Claire, but she was already walking toward the door. "Don't follow me," she said, without turning around. "I'm filing for divorce tomorrow." Daniel left. The door closed, and for a long moment, neither Evelyn nor Amelia spoke. Finally, Amelia hugged me. Not a desperate hug, a solid, grounding one. "We're okay," she whispered. "We've always been okay without him." I held her and realized she was right. Isn't it strange how the truth can hurt and heal at the same time? Some people don't deserve a second chance because they never deserved the first one. The strongest families are the ones built by the ones who stayed. If this story touched something in you, please leave a like for Winds of Thought and tell me in the comments, what would you have done differently? Your support helps us bring more stories that matter.